Greetings. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. Today's video is about why it's crucial that you learn how to read tarot, and why the understanding of such a thing will revolutionize your understanding of how and why magic works. You've got two sides of the brain, the left brain and the right brain. And we generalize the thought process of these two sides of the brain as logical and abstract. Now, the way that the thought processes between these two different modes are polar opposites of each other. One is very organized, very structured, right? It's put together very well. The other is not structured. It's seemingly random. It's kind of chaotic, and it's open for interpretation. It's more feeling based, while the left brain is more fact and logic based. We're taught in society to process the world through our logical centers. So most of our lives, we walk in such a way that is A plus B always should equal C. But see, we encounter certain problems where D is the answer and we're not sure why A and B isn't adding up. We're not sure how to get to D. We're not sure why A plus B didn't equal C. These equations that our thoughts process through don't seem to add up all the time. This is why science, at least the exoteric, the mainstream version of science, is so faulty, because we have a lot of structured formulas that seem to change every few years because we find that, hey, this doesn't work in every situation, so we have to change it. This all comes from logical thinking. Now, in abstract thinking, like I mentioned before, it's somewhat open to interpretation. The old saying goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words. In reading tarot cards, what a lot of people accept is that, oh, I'm tapping into this new field of spirit. I'm tapping into this new technique of reading the soul or reading the mind, or whatever you want to describe why tarot works, right? The closest explanation we get is it's tapping into the subconscious mind. Well, how is it that my deck of tarot cards can explain your problem if you're a completely different person? Why is it that I can randomly pull these cards and I'm able to define your situation? Is it this mysterious psychic ability that I possess and no one else does? Or your tarot card reader possesses and no one else does? Is it really working that way? Or is this a little bit deeper, right? Or is this something that we haven't quite figured out just yet? Before I get into that, I want to talk about how it is more beneficial to be as flexible as possible in your understanding of occult technique. Occult means hidden. Occult means secret. It doesn't mean dark and demonic. The word occult literally means hidden. And it's hidden because the common man doesn't have the capacity to understand. It's not hidden because only the rich can use it or only the elite can use it. It takes a certain type of mindset to use occult technique. To those who don't have this mindset, this occult technique is hidden from them naturally. Even if you give it to them, they won't understand. The Bible says, don't cast your pearls before swine, right? Because they don't even understand how to respect these techniques. But the best way to flow through occult techniques and put them into practice is to be as flexible as possible, right? You right now on your journey, right? Understand that you go through levels, you go through stages. The first stage is utter surprise, right? And wonder. And that happens for a while as you try this and it works, and you try this and it works, and you keep trying all these new things and you're finding all these results and all this success and you're just so amazed. Now this can be a potential trap because your ego begins to get inflated. You begin to think, I'm special, I'm better, I have this amazing power, That's what you start to believe. Or even worse, you start worshiping some entity that was the first one to give you real results. These are traps that people get stuck in and don't advance upon the path. When we talk about these entities and these spirits, these are concepts. Now again, this is where I want to point out the principle of being flexible, right? All truths are but half-truths. This is what the Kabbalion says. In chaos magic, the idiom is nothing is true, everything is permitted, right? When we talk about the law of polarity, there's two sides to every story. The truth is met in the middle. So what I'm saying is, don't get stuck in a paradigm of thinking. Continually test to see what is real. Reality is undefinable according to our senses, right? We can only have opinions or assumptions. We can use our senses to kind of detect and get close to a truth. Ooh, deja vu. Get close to a truth. But we have to also understand at the same time, we're not experiencing the full truth. Two people can look at the same picture and get different definitions of that picture. Which one of them is right? They both are right and neither are right. The reality of it is somewhere else. All that they have is their interpretation. But in having your interpretation, you want to be flexible and open and understand that there are other possibilities, right? And this is what I mean by being flexible when working through the occult techniques, working through any spiritual techniques. No concrete truth exists that can be explained and understood by the senses. It's all flexible. If someone sets a certain amount of rules, understand that they worked for that person in that time, and they can work for you also. But understand that there is so much more that that person or you or anyone else hasn't even touched or explored yet. This is because the universe is continually evolving. Things are constantly changing, right? A lot of this magic and these grimoires, it's continually being figured out. We haven't gotten to the end of it yet. Where we are now is right in the middle. There's a lot that has been discovered, and I stand on the shoulders of giants, people who came before me and who've dug much deeper and spent more time, invested more energy in studying and bringing out these truths to people who can understand it. And there's going to come many after me and many after your favorite YouTubers who are going to bring even more profound truths and help people get to the center a lot quicker, a lot faster. But in order to do this, you can't get stuck in one mode of believing. You've got to understand that all of reality is subjective. All of experiential reality, all the reality that we experience with our senses, it is objective. It is subjective. It's a concept, right? Objective reality exists as it is, without your opinions, without your interpretations. It just is. And the closer you can get your thought process to that level, where you're not filtering it with emotions and opinions and how you feel about it, the more you can do away with those things, the more you stick to the truth, the closer you get to the truth, right? You got to be able to flow, right? The best example I can give of this in my field is when we talk about the goetic spirits, the demons, right? There's one side that says, oh, these entities are real. They are actual demons. They exist. They're somewhere. They're tangible. They're physical. They have personalities. You can summon them. They can contact you, etc., etc., etc. Then there's this other camp that says, no, these are just concepts that you tap into, that you use. They're parts of your subconscious mind. They're parts of you. They're not individual. They're not separate. They're not real. They're ideas. They're archetypes. And every now and then, an astute mind will come up and say, hey, Trav, on one video you said that they're real. On another video you said that they're just in your head. Which one is it? Which one is it? I don't understand. And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. You've got to have such a mind where you can bounce here when it's necessary and bounce there when it's necessary, because neither of them are true. They are not real, and they are not just part of your mind. They're in the middle, right? The truth is in the middle. The extremes meet. The contradictions meet in the center. Read the law of polarity in the Kabbalion to get a better understanding of this. But ultimately, you've got to be able to exist in the middle. When you come to a place of polarization, you've got to transcend with the law of polarity, not go to one side or the other. You've got to zoom out and see the whole thing as it is, right? Don't stick to one side, because when you stick to that rigid set of rules, you begin to decay, because the rest of the universe is continuing to evolve around you. So you've got to be flexible with your understandings. This is why it's so foolish to get engaged with these people on the internet arguing about this works and you have to do it this way, and if you don't do it this way, you're wrong, right? And then there's these other people who say, oh, do what you want. Do it any kind of way you want to. It doesn't matter. These two extremes, they're both right and they're both dead wrong. You got to be able to flow in the middle. But be careful. That doesn't mean you just cherry pick what you want, right? Because that's being more in the realm of ego and just doing what feels good. You're running towards pleasure, right? This isn't about pleasure or pain or humanity. This is about a way of using your mind, a way of using your consciousness to evolve. And it's to not get stuck on one side or the other, but learn how to flow in between, to look at what isn't being said. In every grimoire worth its salt, it warns that there are traps inside of it. And for the most part, the traps of all grimoires is that you've got to learn how to read in between the lines of what the rules that they set, what the objective reality is and what the subjective reality is. You've got to be able to swing in between. All right, you'll see a lot of grimoires that say, hey, if you use the PDF, you're going to be cursed. Is that true? Is it a lie? It's somewhere in the middle, right? It's just like those FBI warnings in front of the old school VHS tapes. Is the FBI really going to track you down because you've manually copied a tape and passed it out? No. They've got bigger fish to fry. They're not worried about that. Now, that's not advocating, just passing around PDFs. Please, by all means, pay for these books, right? Because it's an energy exchange. These people invested time and research, right? Hours of their lives, sweat, blood, and tears, and experience. If you truly appreciate the experience of these authors, if they actually helped you out, spend that little bit of money and support them, right? Nothing wrong with downloading PDFs either, because there's some books that cost $1,000 that I've read and were not worth $1,000. Again, learn how to flow in the middle, right? Invest and give energy back to those who have helped you and those you do appreciate. But don't feel like you're cursed because you didn't buy the book. But don't feel like you're getting away with it because you're just getting a bunch of PDFs. You see what I mean here? In between. So why is it so important to learn tarot? The thing with tarot is there's a lot of cards. And each of those pictures on the cards mean different things. Each of the numbers mean different things. And you'll see certain websites that say it means this. It means this. Seven of Cups means this. The Hanged Man means this. And if you are not careful, you'll study one person's definition and get stuck there. And then you see someone else's definition, and you'll say, oh, well, that doesn't sound like what I read before. Now I'm confused. I don't know which one to follow. Or even worse, they're wrong because the website I studied said this. You see how this can start to trap you up? You see how this can start to be something that takes you off the path of evolution? You become stagnant, you become rigid, and you become just like those religious people that you talk all that shit about, praising white Jesus. So, the crucial thing about learning tarot cards is, number one, you start to really learn how to read in between the lines of the different meanings. Because a picture's worth 1,000 words. These symbols mean a lot of different things. But what you want to do is cross-reference and get multiple definitions of these cards and figure out yourself what the meaning is. I suggest the Rider White Pamela Coleman Smith deck, because the images are so true to the meaning and the energy behind each one of those cards. I know you want to get the fancy Lovecraft deck and the Crowley deck and all those. Do what you want, but my advice is to get the Rider White Smith deck, because, like I said, the images are true to the energies behind those cards. After you learn the numbers by heart and the meanings by heart, then go get some of the other decks. Ultimately, do what you want. I don't care. But that's my suggestion from someone who understands what he's doing. Now, anyways, you want to kind of accumulate and cross-reference different sources for the meanings of these cards. And what you're going to learn is not memorizing with the left brain. It's not about memorizing, oh, well, this means this. This means this. No, that's the trap. You want to start using your abstract mind as well and kind of go off of what the pictures mean, because they can mean multiple things. But you also want to apply it to the situation at hand. You want to add context to the definitions of these cards. When you start to do this, and you don't need to look up references anymore, once you start to build your own library of what these cards mean and what they symbolize, you begin to notice again now how to interpret dreams, because they're the same thing. The things that you dream about are symbols and pictures, and they have meaning, and the meaning is into context of your life. So if someone says dreaming of donkeys means that you're going to get money, how does that apply to you? Maybe this is the person that wrote that book because they had an experience in their childhood involving donkeys and wealth. But you begin to look at the symbols that you find in your dreams and you apply them to the context of your life. What happened with you in donkeys? What happened? You see the number 3. In your life, how does the number 3 come up repeatedly? Right? When you see a particular entity in your dream, were you working with that entity? Put it all into context. This is how you interpret dreams. You look at each one of the symbols and you look at the definitions of what the symbol could mean and you put it into context of your life. So yeah, get a couple of dream interpretation books. Don't just go by one. No. That's why I have so many different books on the goetic spirits. Not just one, not just demons of magic, not just demonology Goetia, not just Luciferian Goetia, not just the Solomon Goetia, multiple versions, so I can cross-reference what each one of these authors and practitioners have experienced and read in between the line, oh, so this is King Payman. Oh, so this is Asmodai. This is Dantalion. This is Citri. Right? You got to flow in between the lines. None of this magic stuff at all is what one person said. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Bobby Hemmett or Brother Panic or Michael W. Ford or E.A. Coetting or Travis Magus. Build your own repertoire of experience. Not just knowledge. Not just knowledge. Wisdom. Wisdom is when you take that knowledge and you apply it in context and you get that feedback and that deep understanding of what this thing means. One of the easiest ways to get there, if you're too afraid of working with demons, if you're not there yet, if you're still Christian, that's cool. Go to the tarot cards. The tarot cards is activating your understanding of how to read your subconscious mind, because you're looking at these pictures and you're using your abstract brain, which is the gateway to the subconscious, because the abstract mind is how you use your imagination. The imagination is the keyboard for that great, magnificent, all-powerful computer known as the subconscious mind. And when you're using your abstract brain to interpret the pictures on the card, and you're using your logic brain, right, to add it into context with the situation that you're reading for, you're learning how to synthesize the two halves of the brain, right? It's not about, oh, the left brain is bad, or the right brain is good. No, you got to synthesize. You were given all these things for a reason. Nothing in this reality is bad or good, right? You got to pay attention. You got to do your own research. The Bible says, study to show thyself approved. All these people are out here still talking shit about the Bible. Oh, the Bible is this and that. Burn the page. No, the Bible is a grimoire as well. And it is very important. It has its place. If nothing else, read Proverbs, read Psalms, and read Revelations. These are all magical books that have power. I have 3 on my shelf back here, and I reference them with highlights and circled passages, right along with everything else.
It's 9 o'clock.
Thanks, Maxine. So, you want to understand how to read these symbols and how to read in between the lines, but you got to study to show thyself approved. In order to read between the lines and interpret these symbols, you got to have a database of knowledge. You have to cross-reference and do your own research. It will never be enough to just take someone else's word for it. If that's what you're doing, you're a follower. And there's nothing wrong with having a teacher or having a guide, because if you're new and you're inexperienced, you need to have a guide to show you the easiest path to cross the river. You're trying to cross the abyss. You can't do this alone. If you don't have a teacher, at least you've got to learn to lean on your own spirit. But until you're strong enough to lean on your own spirit, you have to lean on the spirit of a teacher. And the point isn't to follow this teacher till your dying breath. The point is to follow this teacher until you learn how to swim. Now, what I was saying earlier is, whatever stage you're at, whether you're at that stage where you're getting success and everything's working out for you, understand that there's going to come a point in time where all that stops. You're going to stop seeing results. You're going to stop seeing this happen and that happen. You're going to wonder, where did everything go? What happened? Understand that it all goes in stages. It goes in waves. It's cyclical, right? This is the point up here where you were just a regular person and you didn't acknowledge magic. Then as the wheel turns, right, you start getting success. Now the world is wonderful, but it comes back around. It's a spiral. It's going up. Now with this cycle, things look like they're not working anymore. Keep studying. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep practicing. Keep working. Don't worry about the results. Keep practicing. And what you're going to find is as the wheel goes around again, all of the practice that you continue to do are going to manifest, right? All the results are going to pop up again in greater quantity. And you're going to come to a higher level of understanding. And you're going to keep going around that wheel. You're going to keep going around that wheel of nothing and everything. Nothing and everything. And you're going to have to learn, hey, all of reality works in cycles. It's never going to be at one spot. It's not ever going to just be no results or just all results all the time. I'm at that point where I'm able to transcend that wheel. The key of evolution is to get off the wheel, to get off the circus, to get off the merry-go-round. And when you get off of that wheel, this is when you realize, I'm not doing this for results. I'm doing this because this is the way to be. This is just the way to be. And when you exist that way, you're not looking for success and you're not looking for failure. It just happens. And it begins to happen. The less that you try to control it, the more control that you gain, because you're aligning yourself and you're harmonizing yourself with the true force that is spinning that wheel. And that wheel is always in harmony. And when you look at the definition of harmony with notes, it's mathematic, right? The notes that are in harmony, it's like this string, right? And half of that string is another note. It's a higher octave up, but it fits. It vibrates in the same frequency with the whole note, half note, quarter note, right? When you keep going up these different notes that are in the same wave, it all flows together. And this kind of points to the as above, so below, right? C3 and C4 and C whatever, they're all the note C, or they're a higher octave. They're vibrating faster, but you can put them together. You can fit them together. They synchronize, they harmonize. You want to get in that point with the higher self, with God, with the universe, with whatever you want to call this all-powerful entity. You come to that point, and when you stop trying so hard to control stuff, you realize that it's already in control. Everything is already planned out. Not planned out as in, oh, you're going to do this today and that today. No, the energy is going to flow in a certain way. It doesn't require your assistance. You're able to take your hands off and accept that reality is as it is. If you're going to catch the coronavirus, then you're going to catch it. No magic and no demons are going to stop that. The important thing is to not even concern yourself with that cycle. It's a cycle. All this stuff is a cycle. Pay attention. TV runs on cycles. All these different shows, all these different movies and when they come out, things in politics, all these diseases, all the celebrity deaths, all the natural disasters, these all happen on predictable cycles. They go around and around and around. And if you're not paying attention, you're going around with it. The important thing to worry about is yourself. And how are you transcending your own personal cycles? Pay attention to your habits and what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. What time do you get hungry? What time do you get sleepy? What time do you get horny? Pay attention to yourself. Notice. Map it out. Keep track. And you'll start to see that things repeat themselves. Because the body is locked in a cycle. The mind is locked in its cycles. But the soul, the spirit, it is beyond all cycles. And when you're able to identify with that thing, you become beyond cycles. And what do I mean by identify with that thing? If I identify with this body, then I think I'm this body. I think that I am these eyebrows, I'm this hair, I'm these clothes. I think that I am how people think of me. I think that I'm my status, my career. I think that I am these things. But these things are temporary. They're temporary. Everything tangible is temporary. Feelings are temporary. Thoughts are temporary. They come and go. These things are not eternal. These things ultimately don't exist. So if you identify with any of those things, you don't exist. Ultimate reality is the thing behind all those things. What's driving this ship? What was the force that pushed you into existence? What was the force that caused you to manifest? It wasn't your body, and it wasn't your thoughts. It was something deeper than that. And when you learn about that thing, you start to identify with that thing and not with the flesh, not with the mind. And as you identify with that thing, your life begins to harmonize. You become one with nature. You surrender the body and the mind to nature, and you let it be what it is. And it becomes a hand of God. It becomes a spoon in this pot. A diamond encrusted spoon. But a spoon no less. It's better than the wooden spoons. Well, better is a value judgment. If you're on this path of enlightenment, then you probably prefer to be one of more understanding of your situation. But let's bring it back to the subject at hand. I talked about study to show thyself approved. You got to pay attention and not just take people's word for this stuff. You got to cross-reference multiple sources. One good example of a wonderful trap that was so tongue-in-cheek is when Brother Panic talked about the archons and how they're feeding on you, and the demiurge and this new boogeyman that we have. This is how you can prove the people who are doing their research and those who are just following because they need a pastor to celebrate. All those people who ran with this demiurge boogeyman concept and are just, oh, the boogeyman's feeding off of us, oh, another devil. These are people who are not studying. They're not researching. They're not putting in the time. They're just taking what other people are saying and running off with it. The demiurge is not evil. The demiurge is not the bad guy. Now, I would expect you to not just take my word for it. I'd expect you to do the research. If you just listened to Panic and didn't do your own research, then you would think that the Gnostics came up with the demiurge concept. They invented it. They discovered it. And they realized, oh, God is evil. Things don't happen that way. The demiurge concept has been around long before the Gnostics. It was around before Christianity, before the New Testament appeared. Right? The original Greek thinkers wrote about the demiurge. Plato and Plotinus and all those guys wrote about the demiurge, and is actually considered quite benevolent, because the demiurge is not what the Gnostics painted him to be or what Panic told you he was, if you did your due diligence in your research. Because I believe that it was a test to separate the wheat from the chaff, and this happens in the occult. Who's actually meant to be here and study, and who's just doing it because it's cool. Go back and research the origin of the demiurge. Look at what Plato had to say and what Plotinus had to say about the demiurge being the architect of reality, being the physical manifestation of the divine. The divine is as it is, but in order to have physical reality, the demiurge is a lot like the avatar that created the world. The demiurge is right there with Kronos, with Saturn, right? If you look at the Kabbalah of life and how evolution of consciousness went down and zigzagged, right? We got how the Titans, right? Saturn was the Titan, the original one that the gods came up out of, the archons, right? Jupiter and Zeus and Hades and Poseidon and all that. The 7 planets. The aspects of your personality, the 12 zodiac signs. These are all tools of the architect. It's not a person or a thing or a crazy space vampire draining your energy. These are concepts of how energy works, right? So if you're one of those people who did think that the demiurge, this evil spooky man, and the archons are feeding on you, you're forgiven. Forgive yourself. But I understand. But now go and do a Google search. Go find a book. Go do the research. Do the work and stop just taking people's word for it. Because if you do that, you're getting stuck in a trap of what one person said. Oh my gosh. This is getting heavy, man. It's getting heavy because every single day I'm able to see this more and more clearly. This ain't about me. Hell, it ain't about you. There's something divine that is within all of us. And this divinity continues to develop itself. Water seeks its own level. Those of you who are watching this video have that divinity within you. And you've seen it. You've seen glimpses of it. You've seen it at work. You've seen amazing things happen. And you want to know more. You want to know how to get more of it. You want to know how to develop it, become the greatest version of you, how to become the spark of divinity. Well, you're on that path already. You're doing that. Don't feel like, oh, I'm almost there, or I can't wait until You're there. You're there because you've seen it. And there's nothing that's going to take you off this path. If that's how you feel, you're there. Keep going around this cycle until you get off of it. Do the work. Study. Learn how to read tarot so you can understand how to interpret different symbols. So you can learn how to cross-reference. So you can learn how to get this definition and this definition and this definition and read in between the lines. And come up with your own wisdom. Jeez, I hope I covered everything. Yeah, I did. Harmony. Look, I love you guys. I say that a lot, don't I? Because I mean it. I'm speaking to you. I'm speaking to myself. You are me. Got this face and this hair and this body. That spark of divinity that hears the words that my spark of divinity is saying. We're the same entity. This is why I love you. This is compassion. This is why I can't look down on anybody. I spend most of my time now counseling and doing coaching and doing consultations, right? And I do studying also, but I spend most of my time communicating with the divine in you. And the more people I talk to, the more that I see that I'm just talking to myself. We are a reflection of each other, especially those of us who are on this path and doing everything we can to learn more and to do more and to be more. So look, be easy on yourself. Trust yourself. Keep going. Keep going. You're fine. Trust me, you're fine. Ain't nothing to be scared of. No boogeyman at all. Ain't no demiurge. Ain't no archons. Ain't no demons gonna trick you and eat your soul. You got your soul now. And you realize that you can't sell it. Who you gonna sell it to? Who you gonna sell your soul to? This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777.